Let's create something awesome, Game Devs. Tony Chan here, and welcome to episode 37 of Game Dev Loadout, where I chat with the best people in our industry 7 days a week. We will learn how they got started, the obstacles they faced, and the tools they use for success. And today's featured guest is Karen Synder. Karen, it is go time. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Yes, she is a transmedia producer and instructor at the University of Houston. A great thing she is doing at the moment is supporting and increasing the Houston video game industry. She has spoken to government officials to support video game studios, and hopefully they will soon turn head. Thanks again, Karen, for leading the initiative. And go ahead and give us a bit about your personal life and how you got started in the game industry.
Well, my background started in multimedia. I started actually in graphic design, and then as the years progressed, I got involved in marketing efforts as well as various other media such as radio production, TV production, film production. Being based in Los Angeles, pretty much any type of communication that was occurring, I was involved in. And then as video games started to come to the fore and moved beyond consoles into mobile, I more aggressively got into the video game space. And it seemed like a natural progression. I always want to be where the audience is at. And of course, nowadays, more than ever, the audience is, regardless of age, in the video game industry. So it really became an extension of my career set. And as I got involved in the video game industry, I picked up and started utilizing the term transmedia producer, mostly because transmedia means that you're telling a story over at least 3 different media platforms. And one of the platforms that I was really focused in on was video games, but the other side is still video production, in addition to things like ebooks and social media, character interactions, etc. So it really came about because of the market moving and because of the needs of the audience, and then my own love of always being where the next technology is at.
Now, let's get more specific. What exactly does transmedia do for video games? Like, be very specific on your expertise.
Well, transmedia has been most effectively utilized in the video game industry in the marketing side. Example being League of Legends. League of Legends, you don't just play the video game. If you really want more of the story, you go to different media platforms where sometimes you as an audience member are participating, whether it's at a con or whether it's the art, or you want to see the written backstory, or you see the new character art and animations, or you want to be involved with the music set. So more of the story has been arced throughout other media platforms, most specifically for marketing purposes, but also for, of course, character or world enhancements. You can also see that same principle in a few other video games as well. And in fact, here in Houston, earlier this spring, for the UH Transmedia class, we actually took on 2 of the mobile developers here in the city and developed a transmedia marketing campaign just for them to extend awareness and develop their stories.
Interesting. And what is something we game devs don't know about when it comes to transmedia in video games that we should know about?
Well, one of the biggest struggles for the video game industry, regardless of which type of platform that's being developed, whether it's for mobile or console, any of them are all struggling with marketing. Marketing is a huge dollar waster, and it has been very difficult to find and retain an audience just because of the saturation within the distribution model. So the biggest catalyst for most of the developers is to not forget that developing is only half the equation. Marketing is the other half. And by thinking and being aware of tactics that can help extend their messaging and their story that's integral to their game, they have a better leveraging and a lower cost over time if they effectively think in transmedia principles.
And if people had to teach themselves your skills, what would you suggest they use?
Well, this is a producer, strategist, writer role. And in fact, Transmedia Producer was the first new title added at Producers Guild in America 6 years ago. And it fits there because it's really not a new form of media. Rather, it's more effective way of strategizing and writing for more than one platform and thinking along the route of, well, where do I take my story? Where can I add new content? How can the audience participate with my story? And by thinking that way and strategizing that way, that's how then you can map out what assets have to be created. In other words, what videos or what photos or what written material or music or a new game extended universe and or edition. So the training side of it, I'm happy to say, at least on the marketing side here at the University of Houston, we are going to be releasing the world's first transmedia marketing certificate program coming up here in the fall. And that will allow anybody in the world to come online, because it's a fully online course, and walk through 12 weeks of creating their own transmedia marketing campaign, whether it's just for them themselves as an individual or it's for their company or a specific product. And in that way, we're helping to increase awareness of what it means to develop a transmedia marketing campaign and how it can help people. Beyond that, the production side of things, we're actually going to have a separate certificate program coming up next year for that, which will hound a little bit more on the details of, okay, what does it mean to actually produce this full scope in and dive in deeper on that rather than more the strategy side of just planning it out.
Ooh, I would definitely link that up. Check that out, game devs. And now, what are common mistakes even at a pro level? Because like you said earlier, the market is kind of saturated. What can game developers do to be in the spotlight or, to be different from everybody?
As I've talked with so many different types of game developers, from bigger to smaller and all in between, I think we, as creative technologists, there's a serious passion side to what we do. And it comes almost back to the Mark Twain methodology of, you should create what you know in your story arc and whatever really resonates with you. Because in most cases, to be honest, mathematically, your game's going to fail financially. As such, if you're going to go to the work of creating it, it should really be something that you own, because it may very be that you only create that one title. But if it does succeed, then great. You have fed and or extended something beyond what the average is, because too much of the reason we have the glut is because people just copy rather than truly be themselves and have an authentic message or an artistic message and or a unique game mechanic that they want to own.
Yes, follow your vision, follow your passion. Don't just copy other people. Overall, what are your key principles for a great transmedia producer? Like, what makes a transmedia producer really good at their job?
Well, most producers, a lot of people don't even understand what the mean producer means. But in reality, producers, you actually are supposed to produce something. You don't just talk about it. You do it. So there's a high level of the strategic side, which means thinking through and clearly articulating what is the problem and how am I going to solve it. Then you have to break down that particular message that needs to be communicated, whether it's a marketing message or it's a story narrative that needs to be communicated, and decide, well, what's my target market? How can I get into a specific industry? What is the competition to this story? And in a very reasonable way, it's a step-by-step process of a lot of questions and answers and taking the time to think it through. After you strategize, then you get to the part of creating. A lot of people just want to jump directly into creating, but of course you can't create well unless you know why and how and what is the best way to get to that goal, which is why research, the first part, is so integral as a strategist. Then as a creator, then you have to break down everything that has to be created. And especially when you're working with teams as a producer, you have to effectively communicate and organize what needs to be done. So if it's a video production, well, then you better have all your ducks in a row regarding the sets and the costumes and the scripts and who's handling the crew and who's handling talent, who's handling casting, what have you. Or if you have a photography session, again, a lot of organization of checking off what has to be done, the equipment used, who needs to be hired, when and how, and organizing the team around that. Writing, same thing. It really doesn't matter which media. It is a lot of organizing and thinking through to get to that central objective. And then after you release it and are talking with the audience and now dealing with making sure their needs are met and that your story and or message is fitting and where you hoped it would reach, then you have to go back and look at your results, because your results start telling you either what has to be shifted and or changed, or what you could do in the future if you had a specific campaign that was only a specific time.
Wow. So strategize. So, study the market, research, get to creating, make sure you're organized. And once you release the game, stay engaged with the community and get their feedbacks, check out the reviews, and make a better game after that once you get all those feedback. Let's take this on a more personal level, because creating a game can be very long and difficult, and I'm pretty sure you had some bad moments. What was the worst moment of your career? That one moment that's still vivid in your mind? Be very detailed and tell us that personal story.
Oh, well, I can't say that one particular disaster comes to mind. I mean, usually what affects me the most is working with clients over myself. I myself can fail myself and I'll get mad at myself, but when you fail a client, that's actually much, much harder, at least for a personality like me. Now, I can say I got severely frustrated multiple times working on my own video game. Now, in my transmedia romance series, The Elements Club, I was utilizing another game engine for a match 3 because it was an older women audience. I did not want to really come out with a whole new game mechanic. I was actually sticking with what was known, but I added in a full motion game, which means that the 2D and 3D cutscenes are replaced by full on video. And the challenges of dealing with that is it does raise your costs, because video production is much higher in some cases than sometimes 2D and 3D dependent. And I did all the art in my game because it's all photorealistic, because it was all this Victorian, utilizing real art of the time and photographs of the time. So the challenge when you don't have a big budget is always hitting these stupid milestones you can't get as much of, because it takes you always more time. And so I created over 1,000 pieces of game art, and it was very frustrating at times, and feeling that I wasn't able to get the exact look and or feel that I wanted, because I was trying some new things. Also dealing with the video. Oh my God. See, video games are, a lot of times they're packaged. Like Apple won't accept a video game, even though they want you to play it on their Apple TV, but they wouldn't accept it with my full-on video files at high quality, because they're like, no, it's a video game. You need to have it underneath, 50 megabytes. Well, you can't do high quality video, 50 megabytes. So doing a full motion video game and then realizing that Apple's way behind the time for thinking that a video game has to only fit a certain box was really a challenge. I would say that another thing that I found as a personal kind of failure, so to speak, is despite a lot of market research and despite where I'd hoped to place it and gotten some back-end help, Facebook really fell flat for me, a lot flatter than I thought it was going to be. And that was really tough to take as a failure. However, it did surprise me in one sense on distributing on that platform. I have a 22% male audience for a romance game. And you're like, okay, but what I found out is they really love my male characters, because I don't do pretty boys. I have very real men in this romance, and they responded to that. And so they also like the Victorian world. This was very interesting to me, which I didn't expect, is that sometimes you can find an audience that totally you would have never expected for a particular story.
Okay, so you're creating a game and a lot of unexpected things happen, of course, but you found out something new about male audience that were into your characters. Well, what do you want to make sure a game does take away from this experience? Because maybe we shouldn't get our hopes too high that a game is going to be released in a certain way, or what do you want to make sure we take away from that?
Well, especially if you're indie, because obviously if there's a budget, it's a different moda operata, and you have to hit milestones in general when you have either a client and or investor obligations to meet. But in my particular case, because I self-funded this and did this very much on my own, the answer is that I think a lot of the newbies, they don't approach it with a business plan at all. They do not approach it with research. And again, I go back down to the fact that regardless of what you're creating, whether it's a video game, a movie, or a TV show, or a radio show even, we have got to know what we're doing and why we are doing what we're doing. So going through that process of thinking through really can help with problems, as well as a lot of indie developers forget the legal side. And this is kind of inherent with a lot of indie creators, period. But, you've got to get the release forms and sign off as independent contractors, whether you're getting the right sound effects and or the music, handling the art assets. I've had too many horror stories told to me by various other individuals because they forgot the legal side and someone claimed ownership. So that's another thing that's very kind of interesting little twist along the way. And then lastly, again, going back down to, well, even if you had the entire game, it's perfected. Of course, hopefully we all have a good quality assurance check, because again, it's really hard on a small team to go back over and over and have that quality assurance compared to those that have a larger budget, but that's so critical. But then there is the marketing. Most game developers I speak, especially small ones, hate the marketing side, but that's why I keep going back to it saying, if you forget that side, you forgot half the equation, because that's how much it's taking up now in terms of securing an audience for a particular product once it launches.
Yeah, marketing is so crucial because you have to let people know your product is out there. You just have to. But the good thing with today's technology is that there's so many ways to market your product through like social media or doing Facebook ads and Google ads and stuff like that. So there are a lot of ways to advertise your game. You just got to go out there, find what works for your game and just do it. And you got to spend money, but that's just a part of a video game right there. You got to spend to make money to market it. What is the best investment you've made? And it could be investment of money, time, or energy. And how did you decide to make that investment?
Oh, doing the transmedia marketing was by far the best, because I found that the Facebook ads totally suck.
Ooh.
In fact, I have gotten the exact same dollar value for my game by only adding story additions to my characters on Facebook than when I spent $15,000. So story has won hands down by bringing people into the game over ads. And because I had set up the game properly where people could utilize all the tie-ins to do self-promotional tactics and or award sets, etc., that has worked. Apple, because it's only on Apple and Facebook right now. Apple, it's show me the money. That's all they care about. And if you don't have that, you're just not found whatsoever. Now, I will say that when the game came out, they did highlight it in the European market, unfortunately not the U.S. market. That did obviously help kickstart it in that, because you never know, of course, on the editorial if they'll pick you or not. They didn't even tell me that I was. I had to hear about from a friend in Europe, in France, who said I saw it on the App Store. But nevertheless, I would have to say that's a much harder nut to crack without money. Android is weird. I never went around. I find I haven't really actually gotten to Android because I haven't had nearly as many people. It's actually Kindle, because again, this is the older women audience. A lot of them are vivacious readers. So they keep wanting to be able to on Amazon. Amazon has proven to be extremely difficult to deal with. It's funny because this is a total side note, but the books, okay, I can talk to a real customer service rep for a $5 book, but I can't talk to him for $1 million game. And you're just like, what are they thinking? They're so siloed over there. I need customer service. They had some serious flaws that were coming up that our coding side was catching, and they wouldn't talk to you. Instead, it's like their clearance department, I don't quite understand why they deal with it that way, but they unfortunately don't treat game developers, especially indie developers, with courtesy and trying to help us make sure that things are correct, especially for doing Amazon Fire TV. So it was a very interesting process. And finally, I just said, I just don't want to go that route. If you can't get proper support, then it's very difficult to, especially as an indie, handle that particular platform.
Wow, come on, Amazon. How long was this with the Amazon? I wonder if they improved their service by now, hopefully.
It's actually gotten worse. What we ran into was they kept coming back to me, especially for the free underground version, saying, hey, you're not allowed to force people to actually grind to get the gold to make it through. Well, once you get rid of, say, the gold to get it through, well, then you've taken away a barrier and might as well just not have a game. So you have to I'd have to have redone all the level placement to try to make it without as much of a grind, so to speak. And I just wasn't, it's like the person who is literally answering had never played through or understood the market at all. It was really bizarre. It was literally like I was talking to an intern on these emails. So I don't know, to be honest. They might very well have brought in another team or someone who seems to understand games. But I also sometimes wonder if they're just trying to get rid of indie. And again, this is total speculation. There's absolutely no foundation to this. These are just things you think of as a developer because you're like, why am I getting such odd, weird answers that don't apply?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there something going on that's above our pay grade?
Well, aside from all that troublesome with Amazon and stuff or Android, what is the one thing you're most excited about today in the game industry?
I would have to say that more than ever, we have a large audience to play with. And more than ever, we need more genres. Example, if you look at movies, there are comedy movies are like number one. Show me a consistent genre of comedy games. Now, there's a few out there, but by and large, it's like that entire genre is not nearly played to the extent that it could be. Another example, in film, they have tons of the quote-unquote spiritual market and or Christian market. There's like next to nothing in spiritual and or Christian gaming. Another example, in the film market, they have by far more like mystery and or Western and or stylized. There's a few games, but by and large, again, it's like whole segments of storytelling have yet to be fully explored. So I have to say that as the medias continue to merge, I'm hoping to see more and more storytelling that is expressed in interactive dimensions so the audience can participate. And in that, we see larger expressions of where the video game industry as a whole can go.
Well, hopefully, Karen, your encouragement on the show will hopefully persuade someone or motivate someone to create that kind of game.
Well, you never know.
Awesome. Don't forget Game Devs. You can check out gamedevloadout.com for all the show notes. You can also subscribe for my email list to get tips and updates. And now we have reached a crunch time, that phase that Game Devs dread, but we are here to overcome it. Basically, Karen, I will ask you quick questions. You'll be giving us a ton of valuable information in return. Are you ready to crush it and release the show?
Thank you. Yes.
What was holding you back from becoming a game developer?
Well, I would say the only thing that as for my next game title, I am working towards corporate sponsors because in this case, I am ready for the next level of doing another full motion video game, which I'm working on. And that one the funding I'm seeking on that one is going to be, it really comes back to money rather than grinding away on my own and having own dollars. This time I'm looking forward to having some other leverage and doing something unique there. Nice.
What's a personal habit that contributes to your success?
I think persistence and the fact that I'm a fighter, which sometimes, of course, does kind of go against you. Some personalities don't do as well. They value a softer approach, but I get in there and I fight for it if I feel very strongly for it.
I'm with you. I'm there to help you out. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I would say personally, it's to keep your objectives in line. You know, we can get so caught up in vainglories. And as a creator, it's too easy to align yourself with seeking out human glory. And at the end of it, does it really matter? Does the award matter? Or rather, is the process along the way where we got to have a relationship, we got to work together, and in that, we sweated our life's blood and tears and created, but it's the relationship that's more important than the product itself.
Definitely. And how has a failure set you up for later success?
I think tempering is a very integral part of what we need as humans, especially as creators, because it takes perseverance.
Oh yeah, it's definitely tough. From what I heard working in the game industry, and you just got to be persistent. You got to persevere and keep going. Share an internet resource we Game Devs should use.
An internet resource that I often go to is actually GamesBeat. And I like VentureBeat because you never know what other technologies and or partnerships you could reach out to and potentially collaborate with.
Ooh, I never heard of that before. Yeah, definitely link that up. Now, this next question is a bit of a doozy, so take your time if you need to. Imagine you woke up the next morning in a brand new world and you knew no one. You still have all the experience and knowledge you currently have today. Your food and shelter is taken care of and you have a laptop. What would you do step by step on the path to become a great game developer?
Well, it's kind of hard to create a game alone. So, beyond the funding issues, it really comes down to reaching out and finding the best team and, if at all possible, finding people who are better than yourself. And so I always try to find, within reason, people who are better than myself. Sometimes it surprised me. Example, with the Elements Club, I actually had 2 Emmy-winning actors who wanted to join the cast, not because of the payment, but because it was something completely different and unique. So I would be looking right for the team. And then once you have the team together, then it's making sure the plan is enacted so it's highly organized and everyone's feeling that they are secure regarding what their responsibilities are and how they can enact them. And then it's straight to production and making it happen. And then meanwhile, on the marketing side, really trying to strategically align with central players who would like to not only test out the game, but also those who may very well help broadcast the game once it's ready for release.
Definitely having the right person on a team makes a huge difference. Like that one person or that team could help you, motivate you, encourage you, have the same vision as you. So like if you're feeling down, they could be there to motivate you to keep going, just to finish a game, to make it high quality, to make it good. So definitely having the right person on the team makes a huge, huge difference. That's why like on my game, both of my teammates are like much better at me. They have tons of experience at game development. So I just go ask them questions all the time for help. Karen, now we have reached the end. Go ahead and give us a parting piece of guidance and how we can connect with you, and then we'll say goodbye.
Well, my guidance is pretty much along the lines of continuing to go where you are inspired and don't give up, because it definitely is persistence. And if at all possible, continue to network with those around you that can encourage you along the way, because every creator needs encouragement. It's a very tough road. And as to connecting with me, gamersofhouston.com is the group that I have had the pleasure of curating with yourself as well as other creators here in the Houston area. Beyond that, I'm always available on LinkedIn, and that's pretty much an easy way to find me.
Awesome. Karen, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. And for that, we are truly grateful. And I hope great things come out of the things you're doing for Houston. We really appreciate it. We look forward to your future work. And until then, we will catch you next time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Game Devs, for listening, and remember that knowledge is only potential power. Execution is the game. I am so excited to announce our first sponsored giveaway with Game Dev Underground, where a winner can get a free 1-hour consultation with the founder, Tim Rusbeck. So if you have any questions on building and launching your game, get on this giveaway ASAP. This is a $1,000 value, and it can be yours. All you have to do is go to the show notes page at GameDevLoadout.com and sign up for my email list. That's it. So until then, keep on making great games, and I will catch you on the next episode. Bye.